Nerd morning, everyone. My name is Jeremy. I'm joined here with Joseph, my older
Guys,
brother, and I am so excited for what we're discussing today. We're going to be talking about the live action representations of Superman, some of the strengths, weaknesses, and kind of our favorites. And I'm really excited about this.
oh yeah, Superman is the first superhero I remember being exposed to as a
Yeah.
kid. So yeah, long time love of Superman.
Yeah, generally, if you talk to people about the genre, he's going to be the one that they classify as the first superhero.
Yeah,
And there is maybe a little bit of contestableness in the genre, depending on what you classify as superhero, what you classify so there's some of
uh,
those like delineations that you can make to argue different things. But generally speaking, he's the first superhero.
the
Um,
first, the most recognizable
yes.
as a superhero. Just if you say superheroes to any group of people, odds are they're going to think of Superman.
Yeah. Yeah. And it might be like they've got their like all-time favorite. Maybe they love like the Superman movies and that's what they watched the cartoons growing up or whatever, right? So they
Right,
might not necessarily think of him very first, but anytime you're having a conversation, Superman is going to be a part of that conversation.
definitely.
And honestly, like Superman has not only been pervasive in the comics and some of those other type of mediums, he's made the big screen experiences and small screen experiences since like really like the beginning.
Oh
Kirk
yeah.
Alyn, he was a Superman in the Adam versus Superman. That was like 1948.
That's reaching back.
That's
Yeah.
totally reaching back. And like I mean,
Uh-huh.
Superman was a character now for many years before that. But that's a pretty long time ago now.
Yep.
And that's that's a big long history of him in live action.
Oh yeah.
Other ones that you're like really, really noteworthy, George Reeves, um, we've got like Superman in the Moment and also like Adventures of Superman, the TV show. And that's one that
Yep.
he's most notably like noteworthy for.
Sure.
Um, and like that's like again a long time ago. Those were kind of the 1950s, and like there was like for the show, I think they had like 6 seasons. Like that was a
Oh
big
wow.
series.
For
Yeah,
that time period, that's
that's
something.
big, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Um,
Lucy is only longer than that for that time period.
right?
Yeah.
Like that was a big thing and had a lot of influence. Then we have obviously Christopher Reeve, and that's
Of
where I think where a
course.
lot of people really start to go, oh, live action
Right.
Superman
Yep.
characters. Like this is when we've got it in our popular culture brains, and I think that's maybe because it's in color. Um,
Certainly the first in color that I'm aware of.
yeah,
Uh, and also so many of us, that's our first exposure to a live action Superman. I know it was for me,
same. Yeah,
right? I know so many people who are Superman is Christopher Reeve.
yes, right.
He
That's
he
that's
is
the discussion,
the
right?
Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think like I mean obviously his production has some of the most iconic Superman music. Um,
definitely George John
and
Williams. Uh-huh.
I mean I think when I still think of this is what Superman sounds like in music, right?
Yep,
That's
it
what I
is.
think of.
Well,
Um,
even the newest movies borrow some of those musical sounds
right?
because it is so iconic. It just is in our brain.
Yeah.
That da 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 da. It's Superman. It just
Yeah,
is.
it is.
So yeah,
That was the first Superman movie was I think 1978.
I believe
So
so.
that's that's a long time ago again, like from the amount of movies that have been come out, the amount of superhero movies that have come out.
Yeah.
But really like that first movie really stands the test of time. Some of
Oh yeah.
the other ones, three, I have some criticisms for. Four, Quest for Peace, that was, uh, that one struggled, but like the first two movies were, I think, pretty timeless.
They are,
And
and they were actually filmed at the same time.
yeah, that's
Richard
something I didn't
Donner
know.
did something completely unheard of. It
Yeah,
almost bankrupted what he was trying to do,
yeah,
recording two complete films in one budget. That
yeah.
was unheard of at the time, but
Um,
luckily it worked.
yeah,
So
and they play pretty well together,
they
and
do.
I think that's probably a reason why. And
Uh,
now that's shooting multiple like projects together is something not unheard of. Like we
right.
see this,
Yeah.
and I wonder how common or uncommon it was then. But
Yeah. My
like
understanding, it was very uncommon, like
yeah,
unheard of. So
yeah,
he pulled it
um,
off, and Christopher Reeve's performance all the way through it. There's a reason why we see him as Superman.
yes. And I
So
think that's really important to be like, this is, I mean, this is like a good answer for the Superman question. Who's the best live action Superman? Christopher E. Reeves is a great answer. And anyone who says that, I'm going to be like, yeah, you've got a good answer there.
that's
Right.
fair. It's
Yeah.
legitimate. We don't even have to discuss it. I get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that there are some other performances and performers that I'm just like I latch on to myself, and I'm like, yes, this is like Superman for me. This is the one I resonate most with, or things like that. For you, what's one that you're like, this is like kind of like my Superman?
I really appreciate the Superman they made for the Lois and Clark series in the
Uh,
90s.
Dean Cain.
Dean Cain.
Yeah,
His performance of it and the way they wrote Superman, it was the nice guy, the one
yeah,
who's there to do the right thing, to help out. Uh, who, as Clark Kent, he's a little bit goofy.
mm-hmm.
This also has to be said. You have to have a superb Clark in order to
Yes.
have a superb Superman. You
Oh,
really
ooh.
do.
Okay. Oh my gosh. This is like a whole like
Uh,
frame of thought I have. Like this is big. This is big for me. Because um Superman wallops all the greatest, strongest characters in the universe.
yep.
And so he's really what the cool kids call OP. Like he's very overpowered. And because of that, you have to have limitations put on him, at least in other ways,
Yep.
because he's so overpowered that it's just like, yeah, of course he's gonna win. And so Clark struggling, like him struggling to be human, is interesting.
It is.
Him being this crazy powerful being, yet like having like struggles with girls, or being able to be
Uh-huh.
recognized in his regular job, or balancing that superhero regular life balance. That's a big aspect of what makes Superman characters compelling. And so like with like Batman, this is like my good comparison that I always do. Batman is cool because of Batman, not
Yeah.
because of Bruce Wayne.
No. Yeah. Right.
Superman is interesting because of Clark Kent.
It's
And
true.
I
Yep.
think if that's something not captured very well, I think you have a little bit less compelling of a Superman representation.
It's true. I know people will disagree with me for saying this, and I love Henry Cavill. Cavill or Cavill? I always say
Cavill, I
that wrong.
believe.
Cavill.
Cavill.
Henry
Yeah.
Cavill's portrayal of Superman is superb. He does a
Yeah.
wonderful Superman.
Yeah.
His Clark Kent, I don't know if it's just he's just too masculine and awesome as a human being. He can't
I mean,
burn it down to
right,
Clark
right.
Kent so well.
You look at Clark Kent, and you're like, specimen. Like
Right?
you can't not do that. And
Uh-huh.
like yeah, Clark Kent is supposed to be kind of like a little bit more hunched shoulders. Like there's this whole like
Uh-huh.
character
There
that Superman
is.
builds
And Christopher
for
Reeve
that.
does that so well.
Oh
He
yes.
Yeah, the time where he's thinking about telling Lois who he is, and he takes off the glasses and straightens up like
Uh-huh.
I
He
am.
like grows 4 inches, and you're just
Yeah,
like, this
right?
is a
Like, oh, he's
different
gonna
person.
do it. But then
Yeah.
he's like, oh. Hi,
right?
Lois. Right?
And that's so cool and so fun because you also get to see like the insecurities that an extremely powerful man has. Um,
Yeah, he's still
like
afraid of girls.
right, I love that, right? But like I think that's
Oh,
also like interesting because when it comes to like man's mental health and mental health issues, like we can have maybe something to talk about here where we have the strongest man in the universe,
uh-huh.
right? And he still has insecurities and fears, and they're
Yep,
very like humanizing. And if
they are.
like the strongest man can have fears or insecurities, that maybe gives permission to
Right.
men
It's
who openly say like
okay.
bottle up your fears, don't
Uh-huh.
have those type of insecurities, tough it out, be a Superman. And here like no, a Superman actually can have sensitivities, can have fears, can recognize that those things are real, and um like can be open about those things or like struggle with
Yeah.
them. Like that's an interesting thing, and I think valuable in that compelling aspect that Clark has.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
um I have to say though, Lois and Clark is such a campy experience. Like I
Yeah.
rewatched them not too long ago. Well, like I guess maybe like a couple of years. Like, but like it wasn't like back when I was a childhood, but I remember it. Some of my big memories are like Sunday when the new episode
Right?
airs and
We,
going,
that's
yes,
what
like
we
this
did.
was
That
the
was our
thing.
Sunday afternoon was let's go watch
Yeah.
Lois and Clark. It was a
And
thing for our family.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um and I don't know. I'm always gonna treasure that series, like totally. One of the best Lois portrayals, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
Honestly, when I imagine Lois Lane, that's the Lois I think of still. So I don't know. But yeah, I think that that's super strong. For me, one of the best Clark portrayals I would say is in Smallville, and I think it's just
That's
because
fair.
it's
Yeah.
only really uh him as Clark
Uh-huh.
because he's like becomes Superman in like
He's not
the
Superman
last
yet, right?
last frame of the last episode. You finally get him pulling out the shirt and tie and revealing
Yep.
himself as Superman. I mean, he's been like superheroing through the entire series, but
Right.
he's been discovering his identity and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, all 217 episodes of that show I have watched at least two times, uh, at least.
I have to
And
confess, I've only seen the first and half of the second season.
yeah,
I
it's
it's
it's a big
yeah,
long series.
it
Um,
is. I
so
wanted to watch it. I would
right,
love it, but it's not on any streaming service.
right, the
So
accessibility of it. I'm like, come on, like we've
yeah.
like like what is HBO Max doing? Give us Smallville.
I'll even
um,
take it on Amazon. I mean, come
there you go.
on.
Yeah. But like honestly, I think the writing really, really holds up. Um, the character that Tom Welling portrays of that is really good. The writers did a
Yep.
great job. Um, like some of the villains, like when you see like Doomsday, you're kind of like, wait, that's that's Doomsday. Like, cause
Haven't
like
got there, but I'll have to check it out.
right? And I
Wow.
it's that they're just like playing with the limitations of a small show budget
Okay.
instead of a big cinematic experience. And also, you've got like animation that you've got to be doing for this. Like he runs super fast, and you've got to figure a way to represent them running super fast in a smaller budget and like some of those types of things. And so you've got some limitations when it comes to costume design and special effects and things like that. But honestly, I think the writing's solid. He really like struggling as a teenager, growing up, and like becoming like it's a very becoming story. I think is
Mhm.
really strong because you have a character that's so overpowered. This is the same thing that you get with all of the like the shonen anime shows, which are like that overpowered superhero-y style
Uh-huh.
character,
Yeah.
but they're struggling to figure themselves out. And I think this just works really, really well for that category of story, and
Yeah.
they just tap into that same wellspring for that show.
What I
Um,
have seen of it is that exactly.
yeah,
He's a teenager. He's like, what's going on? You know, the
yeah,
first episode where he puts his hand in the farm equipment, and his
uh-huh,
dad's like, you just ripped off your arm, but you dented my farm equipment. What's going on?
right.
That that feeling of the I'm different.
hmm
What the crap?
Yeah, and
He does it so well.
yeah, and like this is definitely a superhero story that's targeted for like that younger audience. You know,
Yeah,
it's a teenager story, and you kind of grow up as the show grows up, right?
yeah,
Um, and but like every teenager's like, I'm different, because you're like starting to learn that you do see the world in a little different way
yeah.
than other people, and you struggle, and your struggles are exactly the same as everyone else's, but they feel unique to you, and this is
Yep.
represented very well with that.
It does a great job. Back to your point of you have to have a really good Clark
Yeah,
to have a really good Superman, and its
yeah,
portrayal is just great for everything that I've
yeah.
seen from it.
Okay, so my favorite representation of Superman, mine
Yeah.
like number one, and I'm gonna be like, dude, you're so wrong. Like everyone's gonna be at me with this. Brandon Routh's Superman representation in Superman Returns is my favorite Superman representation. I loved how he had this beaming smile, and he would help people. Like when he rescues them, he would stop and he would help them, and he just felt so nice. And
He
the
does
thing
the
is,
glasses thing too really well.
yes, like there's some
Right?
of those elements that I'm just like, yes, this is what I want from that Superman portrayal. And like, did he do a flawless job on maybe his Clark? Or did he do like where's the writing of the movie perfect? Honestly, I think there's a lot of things that are problematic with the movie. There's some amazing things with the movie. You know, it can be a full, rich, complex experience there, but his portrayal of Superman, I'm just like, yes. So
I,
yeah,
I'm gonna let you have that opinion. You may.
right, right. I'm just
No,
like, I
kudos
know.
to him. I like the performance. I just can't say he's my favorite as well. But
Yeah, yeah, no, and
that's
that's fine. I think that that's like I said. I know I am in the minority here, but I love it. Okay, so what would you say your performance for Superman? What's your number one?
top performance. It has to be Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
Just is. I even like Superman 3. And I'm in the
Whoa,
majority. I'm in the minority of that
whoa.
one, big time. I know, but
I
the
noticed that you did not
concept.
include number four.
Number 4 has its moments, but anyway. But number 3, where you get evil Superman,
hmm
that has just always intrigued me so much
and
that
he the fight against
the
himself.
fight against himself. I even like that scene. That's the one that everybody hates the most,
Uh
but
huh.
I am so intrigued by
Yeah.
that concept of, again, self-discovery, right,
hmm
wrong, good, evil,
Yeah.
just that dichotomy and that fight
hmm
that Superman, that Kal-El in
hmm
this case has to go through. Clark isn't involved. In fact, when they
Yeah.
start the battle, evil Superman is fighting Clark.
Yeah.
So, and at the end, when Clark wins, then he's Superman off to save the day, and you're just
Yeah.
like, yeah. So, that I love it, and that's just mostly why the weird
Totally.
computer part, you know.
Yeah.
But I really love that part of the story, and I haven't gone through the Injustice comics yet. I really want to. It's on my list.
Mm.
The Injustice movie
Yes.
either just came out or is coming out soon.
Coming out soon. Coming out soon.
Coming out soon. So, I am really intrigued by that of the evil Superman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
So okay. So I played both of the Injustice games. I've played both of the mobile games for it. I have read all of the comics for both of those. Let me tell you, taking the symbol of hope and of peace and creating him to be something to be feared is terrifying. And that makes that representation so intriguing. And that's because it just turns everything we know and love and trust in the superhero genre
Uh-huh.
and turns it on its head, and it is terrifying. And yeah, an amazing experience. If you're kind of like uh Superman's just kind of this boy scout character and I don't really like jive with it, try that one out because you'll go and
Well,
it'll be a
yeah.
satisfying experience. But I think that's the thing that like when I when I was young, I was like, yay, I love Superman as this Boy Scout character, right? That he's this good guy. And you kind of like felt like maybe he's like lacking a dimension or whatever. Like, and when you grew up a little bit, you're like, that's kind of what you're feeling like. I just wish there was just more.
There's more to
Um,
Superman, but
and
there
and then,
is.
but yeah, totally. But then when I got older again, I'm just like, I just love how he's a good guy, and like I like returned to that status of going like, yeah, he is rich, he is complex, but him being that Boy Scout of a character is what I like about him. I
uh,
don't know. I think that's interesting.
that,
Um,
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well said.
yeah, yeah. So I definitely we need to talk about like the current Superman, Henry Cavill. We've like touched on him a little bit. Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is essentially now a separate like entity in itself.
Uh-huh.
With his representation, like he has the super powered OP-ness down. And I would say he's
Yes.
got the like the comic book aesthetic.
Definitely.
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 Like you kind of said, he's kind of not the best Clark because he's just too cool to be Clark. And that's a big struggle for a big time actor to, like be in that other position, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
he, I don't know, he does a really really cool
He
job of
does
being
a
like,
great
I'm
Superman.
cool Superman. I'm like he's like throwing my like sunglasses cool, like he's a cool Superman. um where I think, I don't know if the other ones had like that cool factor. Like for me, one of the biggest virtues is like him as a good guy, right? He is a good guy, and that
Uh-huh.
needs to be represented. And I think like you see him as a little bit more of a human. He's
Okay.
not perfect. He gets angry at a jerk truck driver, and like messes up his rig.
I love that
Um,
part. That
right,
is
which
good.
is which is awesome. But like, do I
Uh-huh.
think Superman would have that reaction? No. Do I think
No.
like the Superman figuring himself out would, which is kind of what they tried to play with,
That's
right?
the that's that
Right,
beginning. Uh-huh.
right,
Yep.
which is totally yeah, like do I think the Smallville version of Clark Kent would do that? Yeah, totally. um
Yeah, it's before meeting with Jor-El, before learning who he is and
right, and and
establishing his
and and
values.
and having some angst, that's really relatable, all right? And
Right,
so they do
right.
some things with that which I think are fantastic. um but there are some, I guess, some of those types of things that like I go, yeah, I totally get it, but like, is that like my favorite representation of Superman as a character? There are some things that I go, I would have maybe tweaked tiny a little bit, but
True.
like overall,
They
like,
did pull a lot from the Earth One stories too.
yes,
So and
yes.
that's a little different than the main timeline
Yeah, that's a
of Superman.
really, really good note
So
there. I love that in that series where they're kind of like, I'm gonna go and try this. Ah, that's too easy. I'm gonna go and try this. Ah, that's too easy. I'm gonna try this. Wait, you're gonna reject my paper even though you haven't read it? And all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm intrigued by doing the news reporting thing. One, because this is a little bit harder for me, and
Sure.
everything else was
Yeah.
just too easy. He could have been a pro. I think they do a thing like where it's like a pro baseball player and pro these other things, and like he could do all this other stuff, and he found something that challenged him, and I liked that.
That's a good
And
way to put it. Yeah, it is.
yeah. And here, I don't know, maybe that's played out too, but that was the thing, particularly with that Earth One comic, that I found interesting.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so one of the things that I think is also really interesting, and I think a really good representation overall from what I have been exposed to. I haven't watched all the episodes of the new Arrowverse show of Superman and Lois, but I think it's
Yeah,
pronounced
that
Tyler
is the current
Hoechlin.
one.
Um,
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know how to say the last name perfectly, so apologies if
Sorry.
I said it wrong. But his representation, I think, is really interesting, and it's also interesting because um, Superman historically was kind of like the American way was a big part of
Yeah,
him, and that's because like comics were about the American way, and honestly,
especially in the
like
time period, the Cold
yeah,
War.
yeah. I mean, with
For Christopher Reeve, the Cold War was still going.
yeah,
So
so
yeah,
like that was big, and also like we've had propaganda printed in comics for like the beginning, right? You
oh yeah,
had people who started in comics and then were hired in to do um propaganda for the military, right? I
right.
mean,
Yep.
part of like what makes Captain America, like what made him, was people who were Jewish creators who said, let's create someone who can punch Hitler in the mouth. Like
Right.
that
Uh,
is where
yeah.
that character comes
Uh-huh.
from, which
Right.
then creates like this like patriotism and things like that. When we think of like Superman with the red and blue, like it's red and blue because of some of that American influence.
It is.
And
Yeah.
so there is that history there, but comics have grown,
Yeah.
and they're read all across the world. And Superman also could no longer be the virtuous, good character that he is without necessarily holding on to a world value
Yeah. He
system.
had to open up not truth, justice in the American way, but truth, justice for all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is big. And
Yeah.
I think that um the Henry Cavill cinematic universe Superman does tap into that.
He
He
does,
still
and he
he
does it
there
well. Yeah.
like he still has kind of like the end of the Band of Steel. They're like, like, are you going to be against America, like, or whatever? And he's like,
Uh-huh.
I'm from Kansas. How American can you get? Like they kind of like key into that. But in like the
Right.
Batman versus Superman, he is like in some type of like Day of the Dead celebration, Mexico. I can't remember where they said that was. But he's there. He rescued somebody. There's like the big thing there,
Right.
and everyone's just
He's
like,
lots of
right.
places.
And like
Yeah.
I just love that everyone's like trying to reach and trying to touch him because he is this like divinity-esque hero person that they're
Yep.
kind of trying to puff him up to be so we can have that
Sure.
versus experience.
Right.
But that he is a hero for all. And that's something I think in the what I've seen from the Superman and Lois that they're really, really latching onto,
Uh-huh.
is that he is a hero for the whole world. And
Yeah.
that's a big part of who he is as a character. And I think that's a big, important aspect
Yeah, it
for
is.
Superman now.
Especially, yeah, a modern Superman needs to be a global protector.
Yeah.
So,
He's a character who can apparently hear the flash flood that's happening, 3 or 4 states or a couple of countries down the road. And
uh-huh.
that's then an important part of, if he's just like, man, that's not the United States, I don't care, that's all of a sudden no longer virtuous, right?
Right.
He has to be able to say, oh, those are people in need, I'm Superman, I go help. Like it's as
Right.
easy as that. And
Uh-huh.
I
That's
don't
it.
know. I think they've represented that pretty well. One of the things that they did in the show was have him like speaking in different languages,
Oh,
and
good.
and
Yeah.
essentially like saying like, I know the different languages because I can because I'm Superman, and
Uh,
and because everyone is important to me
right.
because I'm Superman and I care about everybody, and I'm a worldwide hero, not just the American way hero. And I
Yes.
love that growth that they have had in the evolution of the character, and they've represented in his portrayal. I've really liked that.
Good. I'll need to watch that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Oh, I don't know. I love Superman as a character. He is so cool. I think he's is timeless. And I've loved to see how he's grown and changed over the years, and also kind of how we've grown and changed like the character's representation. Like
Well,
the
yeah, in the
earlier
last 40, 50 years,
Mhm.
you know, in the last 30 years since the
Yeah.
end of the Cold War,
Hmm.
massive changes in global economics,
Yeah.
global vision,
Hmm.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been interesting to see kind of some of the physical representation changes as well. Christopher Reeves didn't need a bodysuit, you know, to be Superman. He
Yep.
was super strong, but he didn't have like fake muscles. He had what he had, and we were like, we were cool with that.
Yep.
Now you got a bodysuit, dude. You just do.
Superman's
Um,
just buff. Just live with
yeah.
it.
The other types of things with his character and his personality have been shifted and changed a little bit, as we kind of talked about. And I think that some of those things are really interesting. And I don't know, some of them I think are maybe steps in a way that I like. Some of them are maybe steps that I would maybe like to go back to the good old days. I don't know. Um, but it's interesting to see that evolution through time that we've
It
had.
is.
Well, I really appreciate you, Joseph, and your thoughts here. Any of the last things to add on Superman before we wrap up?
Just that if there's a superhero that we should try to emulate, it's Clark Kent.
Yeah,
So,
is Clark Kent. I love that. I love that. That's awesome. Um, well, thank you so much,
yeah.
Joseph. Guys, let us know in the comments who your favorite representation of Superman is, and tell us why. Because like
Oh
there's
yeah, we'd love
different
to hear
things
it.
that we were talking about here. Like I liked this Superman because he captured these elements for me, right? And you were talking about that because of some of these other elements. So like I really think anybody's pick is going to be super valid. So let us know, what it is and why. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. So put those in below. Also, you can find more Nerd Morning content on many different social media platforms. At Nerd Morning at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and more. Also, check out my gaming channel here
Yes.
on YouTube, which is the Nerd Morning Gaming. It's a great place to hang out and to chat, and like definitely you can put in those type of comments. We can have a debate about Superman or other things like that here there as
Yeah.
well while I game. So it's a good place for that.
Yep.
Again, thank you, Joseph, so much. And we'll catch everybody next time for another episode.
Later.